Hey, I'm Kai, and today I am excited to be checking out the brand new Prog 5 by Bright Onion Pedals. Now, if you aren't familiar with Bright Onion Pedals, they have been the masters of all things loop switching here in the UK for a fairly long time now. I personally use the dual reverse looper on my pedal board. This allows me to put half of my pedals in one loop, half of my pedals in the other loop, and then swap the order of them. They have a multitude of different options available, covering pretty much every use case you can think of when it comes to loop switchers, but this is their first foray into digital programmable loop switching. It's worth prefacing this video with the price. This unit is going to be £200 on launch, which works out to be about $250 in America. This unit is pretty small. It's 5.2 inches by 4 inches, making it slightly smaller than something like the HX Stomp, for instance, and slightly larger than the MXR Carbon Copy Deluxe. In terms of features, we have 5 mono loops available, as well as an amp control jack out for switching the channels of your amplifier. Other than that, we have an input jack, an output jack, we have a power input that can take between 9 to 18 volts, and we also have 4 foot switches. One thing I would like to note here is that the top 2 foot switches are significantly taller than the bottom 2, making it super easy to access everything. It's a fantastic upgrade from something like the basic 5 switch loop pedals that Bright Onion also happen to offer. There's no deep dive parameters, nothing in the manual that I couldn't figure out just from looking at the front face of the unit. When it comes to something that is going to be the hub of your entire pedal board, I think that's an incredibly valuable aspect to think about. In fact, once I got this all wired up and everything, I was able to fly around the UI of the unit in seconds without even having to really think about it. There are 8 presets available on this unit, accessible via 2 banks of 4. For each preset, you can set the bypass state of each of the 5 loops, as well as the channel state for your amplifier. You can have tip, you can have ring, you can have tip and ring, or you can have neither. Pretty much everything is able to be seen at a glance with the LEDs at the bottom of the unit. These will show you which of the 5 loops are active, as well as the tip and ring status, as well as whether you're on bank A of presets or bank B. Over on the pedal cam, you'll see that I have 5 different pedals set up, 1 in each of the loops, and I'm also running out to the Crab BE50. I'm also running the amp control jack out from the Prog 5 out to the foot switch input of my Crab. The polarity of the tip and ring controls can be inverted with internal dip switches. There's also a groundless switch inside, so if you are getting noise issues, it's worth giving that a try. The Crab is then running out to the sewer load box and then out to my door, where I'm loading up the ML Soundlab Mega Oversized Cab Pack. I would also like to apologise for the absolute mess of cables on my desk. Turns out it's not that easy to route 19 cables in a clean manner. As for the pedals I've picked, I've got the Spectral Fire by Holy Island Audio in loop 1, I have the Proco Rat 2 in loop 2, I have the Xander American Geek, which is their take on a Big Muff circuit, in loop 3, in loop 4 I have the Electro Harmonix Small Clone, and in loop 5 I have the Electro Harmonix Holy Grail Reverb. The benefit of running a loop switcher like this is that you can turn everything on and off with a single button press. So I can change channel of the amplifier, I can turn an overdrive on, I can turn a reverb off, all with a single press. Setting up the pedals on my pedal board was pretty straightforward really. I do think some people may struggle with the jacks on this as they're pretty close together, but that's to be expected with a unit of this size. I'm personally using pedal patch cables and they gave me no troubles whatsoever, but you could also use straight cables if you were having an issue. Let's run through the unit itself now and get into assigning some of these effects and showing you how it all sort of works. Again, if you follow the lights on the bottom of the unit, you'll be able to find yourself pretty easily. If you press and hold one of the foot switches, this will take you into edit mode for that particular preset. The LED above it will flash and you'll be able to assign all of the effects. With the amp control tip selected here, I'm running through the OD1 channel of my amp, but if I switch this over to the ring, I'll be on the clean channel instead. Now if I engage both the tip and ring, it takes me over to the high gain channel of the Crab. I'll switch back over to the OD channel so we can try out some of these effects assignments, as pretty much everything works nicely into the OD1. Loops 1, 2, 3 and 4 can be accessed pretty easily just by using the corresponding foot switch, and then you can access loop 5 by pressing the top 2 together. I'll disable all of the effects because this preset is just going to be my OD1 channel completely dry. Once we've got that all set up how we want it, we can just press and hold again to save. I'll now run through some of the presets that I've got set up on this unit. I did them all off camera so that it wouldn't take up a ton of time in the video. The first bank I've got set up to be sort of my essential presets. These are going to be just the dry channels of the amplifier, as well as a affected clean tone. I'll get into the second bank of presets in just a second with all of the pedals and everything, but this is just showing off the amp switching stuff, as well as a couple of the effects. So top left is clean, top right is clean wet, bottom left is going to be the OD1, and bottom right is the high gain overdrive. You can access Bank B by pressing the two rightmost foot switches at the same time, and then selecting one of the four presets. I've actually set up the same chorusy reverb clean tone on this one, as that just made the most sense to me. You can obviously set these up however you'd like them. On foot switch 1, I have the high gain channel boosted. On foot switch 2, I've got my luscious clean tone set up with the chorus and the reverb. On foot switch 3, I have a Big Muff style pedal running into the chorus, and then with a reverb for a sort of grungy lead tone kind of thing. And then on foot switch 4, I've got the rat into the OD channel. Now, something that I realised after setting up the Prog 5 for this demo is that you can technically run this one through your effects loop of the amplifier if you wanted to switch off pedals in the loop as well as up front. You will have to sacrifice a loop for this, but it could be worth it in your setup. What you'd want to do is sacrifice, say, loop 3, and have the effects send of that loop out to the front of your amplifier, the effects return out to your effects send of your amplifier, and the effects return of your amplifier into the output of the Prog 5. This would mean that you would need to keep loop 3 active on every single preset so that it's passing signal right the way through your amp. This would essentially mean you could run two dry pedals into the front end of your amplifier, you could run a delay and a reverb in the loop, and you could switch channels of your amp all just by using a single button press. So that brings me onto the review portion of this video. Now the first thing I would like to mention here is that Bright Onion Pedals have sent me out this demo and paid for me to review it. However, my opinions are worth basically nothing here, as this is a very functional unit and you can make up your own mind based on what you think of the specs themselves. I'll start with the pros, and I guess the big one is that this is the smallest device of this caliber that I have ever seen. The build quality is absolutely stellar. It feels really well built, it's nice and hefty, rock solid, and the switches are really nice. I love the staggered height of the switches on this as well. I think that's such an underutilized feature when it comes to pedals with multiple switches. They've packed so many features into such a small space on this pedal, and it all just feels so well utilized. Nothing really feels crowded like it can do when you're cramming everything into a smaller enclosure. This just feels really well thought out. Some people are likely going to have issues with the jacks being too close together. However, I personally don't see this as much of an issue at all. It's sort of the nature of loop switches at this point. The amp switching control on this is really just the icing on the cake. It works really smoothly and it's really easy to set up. Now, there is something of a trade-off between powerhouse performance, simplicity, size, and price. This unit isn't MIDI capable, it doesn't have a dedicated effects loop, and you can't reorder the effects. However, those things all come at a cost. either the actual cost of the product itself, the size of the unit, or the usability. As such, this is a very simple pedal to use, it's very small, and it's pretty affordable for what it is. As I said, I figured pretty much everything out just by looking at the unit without having to open up a manual or anything. I think if the loops were reorderable, this would have gone straight on my pedal board, and I'd love to see them bring out a pro version of this in the future. One super minor gripe that I have about this pedal is that the numbering for each of the foot switches feels wrong. Counterclockwise, starting from the bottom right doesn't feel like a super easy thing to remember, and it did catch me out a couple of times. I personally would have preferred it to read left to right, 1, 2 at the top, and then 3 and 4 at the bottom. As far as gripes go for a pedal though, that's not a bad con to take really. That's everything that I've got for this video though. I hope you found it useful, and if I forgot anything or missed anything, please drop a comment down below letting me know. I will leave a link to Bright Onion Pedals' website down below so that you can purchase the Prog 5 for yourself. I'll also leave some Tom-Ann affiliate links down there if you're ever doing any shopping, as that gives me a nice little kickback. Until next time though, I've been Kai.